Hey guys, on today's video we're gonna be playing Blade Vortex as a chieftain. I know I said that we were gonna do some Winter Earth, but in the end I didn't like the way that skill was behaving, which is why I swapped to Blade Vortex. This was a better decision because as a Blade Vortex chieftain the character is a lot of fun, and if you're into exploding half the screen while also dealing respectable single target, you're gonna really enjoy playing this character. Changing topics for a bit, today GGG unveiled the new league, Delirium League, and it looks pretty spooky with the mist, the nightmares, the dark shades and stuff. Alright, with all honesty, it actually looks pretty interesting and I plan to sink my teeth into it. So if you're into Path of Exile, let me remind you that if you enjoy today's content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll be playing Delirium League and coming up with build ideas and stuff, and that may be up your alley, so hopefully I'll see you around in the channel. Coming back to the main topic, this character truly makes Michael Bay proud. Like, with all honesty, one of the most satisfying things about him is detonating half the screen with just a single monster kill. Especially in Delve, this character is lots of fun. For today's content, I'm gonna be using Delve and Metamorph clips. The character can kill Sirius, his gang and other endgame stuff. The reason as to why I'm not showing them is because I mostly delved, farmed Soulfight and deleted Metamorphs with this character, and I have plenty of clips about those certain activities. So I hope that's okay with all of you. Alright then, let's begin this character's build guide. For that, we're gonna be playing a chieftain because we wanna convert 100% of our physical damage to fire, and thanks to the Chief Bro and Avatar of Fire, we can achieve that goal. Besides, as all of you know, chieftain is pretty good for dealing fire damage and only fire damage, and we get to bask in all the benefits from this ascendancy. We are playing Blade Vortex, and that means that the playstyle is not for everyone, as the skill requires us to stand still here and there to cast all of the stacks to deal as much damage as possible. This means that we are gonna need duration, and the root on the tree makes it harder to focus on crit damage, which is why we are focusing on Elemental Overload to keep things cheap and easy to build. We are also using Vaal Blade Vortex, and it is mandatory to get a level 21 version of that because it greatly helps the damage. Plus, Vaal Blade Vortex is freaking neat, and in most cases it carries the damage while it's active. The character is using recycled gear from other builds I made this league, but also uses some stuff that we are gonna talk about because it didn't cost me much to get him going, but that not may be the same experience for everyone. So with that said, let's look at the skill tree first, and it looks like this. Alright, now we talk about gear, and for that we begin with the chest, which is going to be the most expensive piece of equipment. We need a Crusader influenced chest with killed enemies explode. Those are not particularly cheap, especially 6 linked. While not mandatory, it synergizes beautifully with the build, which is why I recommend you don't skip it. Besides the explosions, we want life and resists on here. For the helmet, we are gonna be using an Elder Base with fist damage to spells, conk effect for area damage, life and a resist or 2. You could also craft this with a Scorched Fossil for nearby enemies have negative fire resistance, and that is also pretty useful. For enchantments you want Blade Vortex damage or Wave of Conviction exposure. Next is the weapon, and for that we are using a Shaped Scepter because we want the mod gain percentage of fist damage as extra fire damage. We also need Melee Splash for the area damage and an open prefix to craft increases spell damage and mana regen. On the shield we want life, resists, global fizz, elemental damage or spell damage, and in my case mine has one minimum frenzy charge. If you can't get the frenzy on the shield, do not sweat it, as you can craft it on the rest of the jewelry. If possible, try to get mana regen on this slot as well. For the amulet you want a dexterity base with life, mana regen, spell damage and resists. You can craft a frenzy on here, but I went with global fizz increased damage. Optimally, we want an open prefix to slam a Warlord Exiled, and if the amulet has elemental quality from Turbulent Catalysts, we'd want gain percentage of his damage as extra fire damage. For anointments, we go with Master of Force. The first ring needs life, dexterity, mana regen, a resist and an open suffix to craft another minimum frenzy. However, I recommend crafting it with Essences of Hysteria for gain fist damage as extra fire damage. The other option is having an open prefix and slamming a Crusader Exalt for increased spell damage. The second ring needs life, dexterity and curse enemies with flame ability on hit. Optimally, try to get a delve version of this so that you can slam a Crusader Exalt for spell damage as a prefix and an open suffix to craft the last frenzy. For the belt, we are using a Stygian Vice with life, resists elemental damage which comes from prismatic fossils, and I crafted damage. Try to get something similar here. On the gloves, we are using Command of the Pit and mine are corrupted with increased life. We use this because if we socket a Hypnotic Eye Jewel, we get Arcane Surge on spell hits for free, and that's pretty useful for the build. In the boots, we use Bubonic Trails with 2 Abyssal sockets. This means that we have 4 Abyssal sockets and Bubonic Trail is going to give us 10% increased damage per Abyss Jewel type, which we are gonna talk about next. For enchantments on the boots, Elemental Penetration is best in slot. On the Searching and Murderous Eye Jewels, we want life, gain percentage of fist as extra fire damage if you've dealt a crit recently, and if possible, Elemental Penetration if you haven't killed recently. The Hypnotic Eye on the gloves has life, fist damage to spells, and gain percentage of fist damage as extra fire on crit. Finally, the Ghastly Eye has life, attributes, mana regen, and movement speed. For flasks, we use a Granite, a Sulfur, and a Wise Oak. Remember that the Wise Oak wants your fire rest to be the highest in order to give resistance penetration. Besides that, you can use a Taste of Hate instead of the Granite, but make sure that your fire resistance is even higher while the Taste of Hate is active. Lastly, we talk about jewels on the tree, and we want a combination of increased maximum life, mana regen or mana cost of skills, and global fist, spell damage, area damage, or fire damage. Now that the gear is done, we talk about gem setups. On the chest, we want Vaal Blade Vortex linked to Inspiration, Conk Effect, Elemental Focus, Control Destruction, and Awakened Fire damage. We go with Awakened Fire damage because it's cheap AF and far better than regular added fire. You can also go with Awakened Elemental Focus and Woke Control Destruction if you can afford them. Remember that we get Arcane Surge on spell hits as long as the Hypnotic Eye Jewel is socketed on the gloves. For auras, we use Herald of Purity, Herald of Ash, and Zealotry. Remember that we took reduced mana reservation nodes on the tree, that's why we don't use an Enlighten. For the rest of the gems, we used Shield Charge linked to faster attacks, Blood Magic and Fortify, Vaal Righteous Fire, a Flame Golem, and both are linked to Power, a Spell Totem setup with Wave of Conviction and Combustion, and lastly an Enduring Cry. Alright, then now we can talk about the character himself, and he's pretty fun. Blade Vortex Chieftain is not the most original idea ever because a lot of people often play this build concept, but they often go with the strength stacking gear, and that build type is pretty tanky and effective. But that build doesn't have explosions, and to be quite honest, if a build isn't detonating stuff, that is not a very fun build to play, at least in my opinion. There is another way to detonate enemies, and that is through a shaped mace with the enemies killed explode dealing fire damage mod. That will be the budget option, and if you get a nice roll you can change the chest for another body armor like Carcass Jack, but it's all up to you in the end. Vaal Blade Vortex is the silent hero on this build. I simply cannot believe how good it is for dealing with Metamorphs, plus the single target is greatly amplified while it's active, so do not dare to even skip it. The character can deal with Sirius and his Guardians, or Elder and his Bros, or even Shaper. I didn't record those because I mostly spent my time delving, as I was looking forward to get to at least delve 300. And I got there pretty fast, and it's due to the fact that this chunky man clears delves like a champ. So yeah, that's it for the character. Hopefully the few of you who saw the last video don't raise pitchforks because I promised a Winter of character and that didn't happen. I hope that you guys understand that this is leagues ahead in the phone department in comparison to Winter of. And that's gonna be it for the video. The new league Delirium looks pretty cool, and I want March the 13th to get here so that we can start no life in Path of Exile again. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments your thoughts. With that, I wanna thank you for watching today's content, and I hope to see you on the next one. Peace.